Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having a fantastic start to your day, getting up and just feeling great out there. It is Thursday, a little bit closer to that weekend, so we're just moving right along. It definitely feels like this week has been shorter with the 4th of July and most of us having the day off. But once again, we have a lot to talk about this morning. It's going to be a longer video. Of course, all my morning videos are long. I think every one of my videos are pretty long, right? But we have another enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms for today. I call this summer the summer of the enhanced risk, which is, if you guys don't know, we have a marginal risk, level 1, slight, level 2, enhanced, level 3, moderate, level 4, and high, which is level 5 out of 5. And when you have an enhanced risk of severe storms, I mean, it could get rocky for, if you're just happen to be under that enhanced risk for you that day, that afternoon, that evening, and that is going to be the case today, tonight. Fortunately, the areas that could be under the gun for tornadoes also, not just large hail and damaging winds, which has really been the biggest threat over the last several days and weeks. There is definitely a tornado risk, but fortunately, this is not going to be a highly populated area. I mean, we'll talk about that region in this video. We'll discuss it in detail, talk about some towns and communities that could certainly have a risk for a tornado out there. This is going to be kind of one of those days where if you follow the storm chasers, which I know a lot of people who tune into my channel do, and they do great work, this definitely might be an afternoon, evening for you to do that. I definitely think there's a chance for some of those photogenic tornadoes out in the plains that are just way out in the middle of nowhere, not really affecting anybody except dirt and grass and things like that. So it could definitely be one of those days today. Let's hope and pray that it certainly does not affect any kind of communities. But we're going to talk about everybody. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I appreciate you guys kind of understanding that I've not been making as many videos in the evenings. June was exhausting. Amazing growth, but it seems like that it was just nonstop. And regardless if we're busy or not, I'm just taking a little bit of time in the evenings just to kind of decompress. So that's why I haven't been making as many videos in the evenings. But of course, that will get kick-started here in the coming days and weeks again as things pick back up. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's take a look at water vapor loop and take a look at what's going on. Hopefully this will work for us, and it is. Weak ridging still over portions of the south central U.S. and the southwest. You're not really going to see it here, but it's kind of right in here where you still have this ridge of high pressure. It's been kind of suppressed down, so that's why you don't have as intense heat across Texas, Louisiana, areas of the deep south over the last couple days, and more of a flow. It's kind of a weak, I guess, northwest flow where these storms have been popping up and kind of flying through this region, or like this, or you've even had a lot of coastal convection in the Carolinas over the last several days. But basically, in general, the flow is going to be pretty stout in the mid-levels throughout this region. So therefore, pieces of energy around the upper portion of this ridge, and we're going to have a lot of storm activity that fires up not only in this region, even though there's a boundary right in here that's really going to amplify the storm development in this region. But I mean, you're going to have a chance for severe thunderstorms all the way up through the high plains today. It's definitely going to be some high plains magic today for those storm chasers and things. But for people who live here, it's definitely a day where you want to be aware. There's already a nasty line of storms making its way through southwest Oklahoma this morning. But in general, this is the flow out there. We'll watch for a piece of energy that pumps out, I think, multiple supercells sometime later this afternoon into this evening. But let's get off this. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. We'll zoom right into Oklahoma. There is a pretty stout line of storms surging through extreme southwest portions of Oklahoma. You even have a severe thunderstorm warning just outside the Oklahoma City area, and a lot of heavy rain falling. This area definitely has not shied away from a lot of rain. You guys have seen a lot of rain over the late spring and summer so far. But if you're in areas, I would say, in Vernon, Wichita Falls, Lawton, Oklahoma. Watch out for these storms later this morning. They're on their way. They could weaken, and we'll see what this does as it works its way downstream over the next few hours, maybe eventually making it into maybe the Dallas-Fort Worth area, maybe Louisiana, maybe portions of Arkansas. We'll certainly see what happens with that. Elsewhere, we'll take our, let me go on and adjust my Google Maps because I definitely want to mention a lot of towns and communities here later in the video. But if we make our way down to the southeast, the Carolinas, it's still raining. still raining in portions of the Outer Banks. You even got some downpours just off the coast of Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Folly Beach region. You guys have definitely have seen a lot of storm action, especially around the Myrtle Beach area. If you've been vacationing around the Myrtle Beach area, you guys know it. It's been very stormy. We got a lot of shower activity in southeast Louisiana, and there's a lot of rain just kind of around with a little kind of upper level piece of energy floating around here in areas of the extreme western Gulf of Mexico. This is pumping out some rain in this region, and then we go up here and we got some showers. I think we'll have a lot of shower and downpour activity in Ohio today. But as we thought, we got a lot of rain surging its way through portions of Michigan this morning. I do think we'll have some standard summer-type downpours in areas of the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast today. Let's keep moving. Here it is. The Storm Prediction Center, we have an enhanced risk. We'll see if this changes. Broadens. I don't think they're going to go away from the enhanced risk, to be honest. I think an enhanced risk is a great way to have it right now, because I do see some disagreements with the models, and we'll actually show you that here in a second. But right now, an enhanced risk, this does include Denver, Pueblo, all the way down into Woodward, Oklahoma. But the tornado risk today, and there's a slight risk all the way up the high plains, into the northern high plains, all the way to the southern high plains, and everybody in between, areas of just the Great Plains in general. And this, you got a slight risk all the way up into portions of southeast Montana. But check it out. You got a relatively uncommon 10% risk of a tornado in this area. Normally, when you get a 10% risk of a tornado, you get a 10% hatched risk of a tornado, meaning not only you got a 10% risk of that tornado within 25 miles in a given location, you also have a 10% hatched risk, which means you have a 10% risk of a significant tornado. That's said 10% risk about 18 times there in about a minute. But here it is. You got the 10% risk of the tornado in the yellow, 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location, all the way up to Denver, and extends all the way into extreme western portions of the panhandle of Oklahoma, and then extreme northeast portions of New Mexico. The wind threat, though, is you pretty much got the entire 30% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher. That's 55 to 60 miles per hour under the hatched risk too, which if you look at the black outline region right into this region, which is under the red outline region with the black dashes going down it, or between it, if you will, that means you have a chance of significant winds, which is a 10% of that, which means you have a chance of winds exceeding 65 knots or higher, which is around hurricane force winds, 75 miles per hour or higher in this region. And then you got the standard 15% risk of winds exceeding that 55 to 60 miles per hour in this yellow area. We have a chance of significant hail. Okay, not only do you have the 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, you have a 10% risk of hail exceeding significant limits, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. Okay, and then you got the 15%. Always ask me if you get confused by these graphics, by the storm prediction. I feel like I explained it pretty well, but if I tongue twist it up and confuse the heck out of you, let me know in the comments, and I'll certainly will re-explain it to you folks. But basically, in the yellow, you got a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. In the red, that's a 30% risk of that same criteria. And then in the black outlined area, you got your own risk, which is that 10% risk of significant hail in this case, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. This is where the supercells are likely going to get going in eastern and southeastern Colorado today, and we'll talk about that in detail here in a second. There is a chance of flash flooding. You got a slight risk of flash flood guidance being met, which is at least a 15% risk of that. And this area of areas of Kansas, extreme eastern Colorado, central and western areas of Oklahoma. And then you got the risk here in southern Arkansas and northern Louisiana. Okay, watch out for flash flooding, storms just kind of going over the same regions. And then we look at watches and warnings out here. It's going to be pretty hot in the northeast, compared to what you guys normally see. Hot up here in the northeast is different than hot in the deep south. We all know that. But you got the heat advisories for a lot of areas in the interior northeast, some of these mountainous communities, the areas that I would personally love to live. I'm trying to persuade my wife to move a little bit further north, but I would never yank her away from her immediate family. They would hate me for that. But I've always, you guys know, been following me for a while, I've always longed to live somewhere that has more of the seasons. But of course, I would sacrifice my beaches here in the Carolinas for the winter and fall but I would do so. I think you guys know that by now. Heat advisories down here in southern Florida. You guys broke a heat index record in Miami, I believe yesterday or the day before, where it, I think, hit 107, 108 degree heat index. That's brutal. You guys typically get in the upper 80s, low 90s, but the heat indices typically are pretty hot. The dew points are very high down here in southern Florida this time of the year, very high, upper 70s, low 80s. But let's talk about the southeast. A general flow out here, they actually drop the marginal risk for severe weather. So you just have a general risk of a general risk of storms today, and we'll take a broad look at it. These storms will clear off the coast, and then we'll have more pop-up downpours. Basically, they could develop anywhere you see on this map. I would say the only area that maybe doesn't have really much of a chance of rain, I would say, is up here in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. But from Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, the Carolinas, Georgia, especially Florida. I would watch out Florida today, Alabama, Mississippi, and then we'll watch for a more organized area of storms later this afternoon, this evening for central Arkansas, and also could pop up later this evening in northern Louisiana. Let's go on and get a little bit closer up to each region like we always do. And we'll take this here in time. We'll get to about 1 to 2 p.m. And then we get to about 4 to 5 p.m. We got scattered downpours popping up in Mississippi, Alabama, along the coastal regions of the Gulf coastline. And then we got a more organized area of storms making its way through, getting closer to the Little Rock area, but basically skirting through central Arkansas, southern Arkansas, the Cumberland Plateau, getting some downpours again. Could have some very isolated downpours in and around the Atlanta, Georgia region. So we'll see what happens. Some areas might not get a drop of rain. Some areas might get an inch of rain. It's just kind of one of those things, and it's been like that over the last couple of days. It's no surprise or anything like that. But I can tell you the FV3 model has us a little bit different. Shows a lot more widespread activity in the state of Louisiana, southern Arkansas. Not as much going on in western Alabama, eastern Mississippi around the same time frame that the HRRR model has a little bit more activity going on. But we'll see what happens. It definitely wants to show a very stormy afternoon and evening here in Louisiana and southern southwest Mississippi. So we'll see what happens. It's always tough. The summer flows are always tough out there. We take a look at Florida. I do think Florida will get a lot of storm activity today. As early as you'll see it as early as just after lunchtime today, in and around the theme parks of Central Florida. If you're vacationing, especially on the east coast of Florida, I definitely think you're going to have to fight shower and storm activity later on. You could get a little bit of a flooding risk. A lot of rain could fall quick. These could reach severe limits. So if you're vacationing along the Space Coast, certainly from St. Augustine all the way to potentially Miami Beach, you guys could certainly see a lot of storm activity, especially make your way into later afternoon, into the evening time frame, and then it'll diminish with the loss of daytime heating as always. Carolinas and Georgia all the way to Virginia, and then areas of the central and southern apps. Take our way to just after lunchtime, I would say, about 3, 4 p.m. Some downpours already developing in West Virginia, the Delmarva region. You got some downpours, eastern Carolinas. And, you stop it here. It's around 5, 6, 7 p.m. Hit or miss, right? It's kind of one of those days where you got like a 20 to 30% chance of showers and storms. And, if it starts raining, you're going to be screaming at your meteorologist saying, the chance was so low. But as you can tell, I think the HRRR model does really well at depicting that, hey, these storms are going to be extremely isolated today. I don't think the coverage is going to be as widespread today, especially in the Carolinas. But you just never know. Really, anybody you see on this screen has an equal chance to see the storm activity today. Just not very high, really, anywhere on your screen. I would definitely stick to your local people. It's kind of one of those setups where the models could get it wrong, the models could get it right. I'll take a look at the FV3 model for this same area, and it's doing good, kind of, showing the storm activity off the coast of the Carolinas, but I would say the FV3 model shows a little bit more widespread convection. It has definitely been more aggressive with the shower and storms than the HRRR model has as of late. But definitely shows the pop-up showers and storms really just fueled off daytime heating. It's that time of the year where you just get them and, you get to later in the evening and then they diminish. So take a look at the Northeast today. We got them showers and even some heavy rain flowing through Michigan. I think some more could develop this afternoon, this evening. So if you're in central to northern Michigan, especially northeast portions of the state, you could get some more storm activity. But you look at Ohio, some pop-up downpours are ongoing. Maybe even a stronger storm or two is possible. You can't rule it out. As you can tell, you see these little popcorn, little downpours everywhere from Pennsylvania, New York State, even some in southern New England, Ohio, West Virginia, eastern Kentucky. They could really happen anywhere today. We take it all the way into the wee hours of the morning tonight, and then you could have some more activity you could be waking up to maybe some storms just east of Buffalo area. But really anybody. It's the same as the southeast today, but I would say that the coverage is a little bit less widespread once you get up into Maine, but a little bit closer in Ohio. I would say if any area of the northeast mid-Atlantic region, even though I think people in Ohio don't really consider themselves in the mid-Atlantic, but I always show Ohio in the northeast time frame. But 3, 4, 5 p.m., you got any outdoor activities heading home from work, you could have to dodge some downpours in Cleveland, Columbus, maybe all the way down to Dayton as possible. Certainly in Charleston, West Virginia as possible, Pittsburgh, some downpours. And, right around lunchtime, these storms they could really fire, but as far as severe limits, I'm not seeing it much out here, guys. So just some standard summer flow kind of weather out here. Nothing too much to worry about. Now, this area of the country, a little bit different. HRRR model picking up on this complex of storms pretty decently. It's a little bit further south than what the model was trying to show it is. But this area of storms will continue. We'll see what happens. Does it kind of rejuvenate as it enters Arkansas? It's quite possible. If it does, watch out. Western Arkansas into central Arkansas a little bit later today. We kind of already mentioned this. If you're in the Houston area, you could definitely get some tropical rains today all across the coastal regions of Texas, all the way from Corpus Christi. Brownsville, Texas, Corpus Christi, all the way up to Houston. You guys could certainly see some downpour action today, tropical in nature, as this kind of upper level disturbance kind of just spins around the western Gulf of Mexico. And you guys could get a little bit of a flooding risk in Houston today. Just be careful. And they're not really talking about it much, but you guys could certainly see it. And then here comes the big dog storms right here, firing off just off the Rockies. And those have that structure that we fear, right? That supercell structure. I will tell you, as before we zoom in, the Storm Prediction Center is a little bit displaced from model guidance. But Storm Prediction Center are the experts, and we don't always go off model guidance. But before we get into this, I will mention that. But the idea is, what I'm about to show you a little bit zoomed in, is supposed to kind of congeal into a mesoscale convective system and a potentially damaging line of storms and sweep through portions of Kansas and Oklahoma, maybe even the panhandle of Texas later tonight. But let's go on and talk about this, and then we'll talk about the updraft velocity swath, even some winds, and then the ingredients kind of driving this, which is pretty simple, really, relatively speaking. It's nothing too complex about it, but we get into later this morning, and remember, back this up an hour or two because this is in Eastern time, so we're getting into around lunchtime at this point. Nothing going on. We wouldn't expect anything to be going on at this point. 4, 5. Here we go. We're about at 6 p.m. If there's any concerts, and this is not a knock on anybody, doing any concerts in and around the Front Range, the Red Rock concert that has had a hailstorm hit you guys like twice over the last few weeks. I'm telling you guys, it's not funny, but I'm telling you guys, please be aware of any outdoor activities in Denver, along the Front Range cities from Cheyenne all the way to Pueblo. That's a tongue twister, Pueblo. Be aware of these storms. Don't be caught up in them. They're calling for severe storms today for a reason, because there's going to be. So you start this off, you already got based off the HRRR model, north of Denver, you already got a supercell developing. This could weaken because you're kind of north of this boundary. There's a boundary down here that I want to watch. And, as we make our way into eastern areas, and this is right where that 10% risk area is, right? There's a supercell right in here. And there's some very small towns and communities out here in kind of the eastern flat areas of Colorado. But, Burlington, down to Lamar, watch out these regions, Lyman, La Junta. You guys, all these little small towns, be careful. This looks like a big one right here, closing in on that Colorado-Kansas state line. And you could have more to develop. Another one develops here just east or southeast of Denver. This could fly through, affect the Lyman or Lemon area. It's probably pronounced Lyman. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's pronounced Lyman. But from Bennett to Lyman, down Interstate 70, down to Burlington, I'm telling you guys, watch out for some big supercells that could produce some tornadoes. And if you look at the time frame, this is after nighttime. This is around 11 p.m., midnight time frame. So, you know, I think that this could get going earlier than what the HRRR model is saying. But, hey, this is what the HRRR model is saying for Colorado. And then these head out, turn to more of a complex line of storms. You look at the very latest HRRR model, and really it's not much different, to be honest. But we take a look at the NAM. Let's look at the NAM, see what the NAM shows, the latest NAM. Let's back it up. One thing I'll tell you about the NAM, guys, it doesn't really show any thunderstorm development in the area where you have a 10% risk of a tornado, a 30% risk of hail, a hatch risk of hail, and a risk of damaging winds. But look at the NAM shows. You get into 6, 7, 8 p.m. At this point, we're at around 10 p.m. The sun's done set. There's not a whole lot going on, right? So you got to wonder, what's up with the NAM? Is it on to something? I don't like the NAM too much. I'll be completely honest with you, but it's still utilized by the experts, the Storm Prediction Center, but the NAM doesn't show anything in this region. So, you know, it's a weird call. You know, we look at the FV3 model, which is what I've been using a lot lately, which I think has done decently well. And remember, it's not as high resolution as those other models, so it just shows more blobs, if you will. Like there's some blobs up here. But I would watch out. Actually, you know, more so north. I'm not saying this is where the biggest threat's going to be, but don't disregard the 2 and 5% risk, like up in north, like the northern portion of Colorado, northeast Colorado. These could produce some tornadoes too, guys. But look at this big supercell near Lyman, firing off just off the Front Range, heading down Interstate 70. Floating eventually, and look at that little hook. Remember, this isn't as like high resolution as the other models, but look at this big supercell right in here, kind of in between that Burlington and Lamar area, heading right towards maybe Syracuse, Kansas. And yeah, I would watch out. And you know, the FV3 favors that time frame like the HRRR model, around that 10 p.m. to midnight time frame in eastern Colorado. So is the timing completely off of these models? It's quite possible. I would say the activity fires up more so in Colorado, north of Denver first, and then kind of drifts southeast. We'll see exactly what happens. It's a tough one. You know, we move into, and let's go on and let's make sure we're doing this right. I'm all over the place here. Let's move to, looks like I didn't have my panels pulled up the way I wanted it to. Let's move to everybody else that's under the gun today, and let's look at that HRRR model. Let's go back. And, you know, it's kind of the same deal, right? You know, this is this morning, okay? We're dealing with all these showers and storms. Some are reaching severe limits. We'll get into this afternoon. Things begin to clear out and, you know, probably destabilize again. And here we go. Big storm firing up here, right up here in Colorado. We already talked about this storm, and here comes these storms making their way into southwest Kansas, Syracuse, Garden City, Kansas, Scott City, Hugoton, Liberal. Okay, all these folks right in here. Watch out! These supercells develop in Colorado, and then they might retain that supercell structure as they move into southwest areas of Kansas. And these storms could produce a tornado. Okay, so, and I mean, this is 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, guys. So the timing is much later with this, and that's concerning, okay, because it's going to be nighttime. You can't see it. Folks, let's hope they don't. Folks might think that there is going to be no threat because nothing happened in the afternoon, evening time frame, but I'm telling you guys, if you're in southwest Kansas, be aware of a nighttime threat. But this could very well develop quicker, and damaging winds are possible with all this. This gets into the Dodge City region in the wee hours of the morning, and then we're waking up tomorrow morning with a pretty nasty line of storms potentially ongoing in southern Kansas and areas of Oklahoma. Okay, could be kind of the same thing that we're dealing with this morning, but this could be more intense. All right, we look at that NAM model, which doesn't show much at all, right? And we'll take it all the way through, and it just shows a bunch of convection developing around the 4, 5, 6 a.m. time frame in southwest Kansas. The NAM just doesn't really want to get it going. It really doesn't. So, you know, it's something we need to watch. Is the NAM on to something? Is it the NAM just not that great? Like I kind of think it isn't. We'll see. But the FV3 model for this entire region, I will tell you, it likes some supercells developing here in the Panhandle and areas of northern Texas. So, if you're in areas in and around Amarillo Point South, watch out for some big storms. It likes that area. But the FV3 model, same kind of timing. 1, 2, 3 a.m. shows some big storms a little bit further north in western Kansas. Dropping down, and it has the lingering kind of area of storms moving a little bit further north than the other models do, as it kind of skirts through more so southern Kansas than Oklahoma. So I would say today's pretty tricky to figure out, guys. It really is. And, if we do go, I don't want to ignore you folks in New Mexico because there is a threat of storms. You go back to the HRRR model, I would mention, a lot of the models doesn't show much at all developing in New Mexico. And this is getting into Friday, but most models don't even like the idea of anything. But I can tell you, it's pretty obvious that the Storm Prediction Center is somewhat ignoring the model guidance. So that should tell you something. It'll be interesting to see what wins out, okay? But the updraft helicity swath, I'm going to show you the area that's highlighted the most on the HRRR model, and it really likes extreme. It really likes extreme southeast Colorado. It likes this area. And then these areas right here in southwest Kansas overnight tonight, even the Panhandle of Oklahoma, down here into the Woodward, Oklahoma region. And this is between now and really, let's take it all the way out. This is between now and really the next 24 hours. Actually, I didn't have it playing all the way through. So here we go. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not have it playing through. This is actually the area that it's showing tonight. Look at this extremely very bright, vibrant signal on your screen. This starts in Colorado. I was wondering why it showed so low. I didn't have the time frame played all the way out. Colorado starts in Colorado. And let's go back to this. Let's go 24 hours out, and here it is. I mean, it starts right here, just east and southeast of Denver, and really just screeches through Interstate 70 all the way down to some of these small towns, very small towns. I mean, Kit Carson, Cheyenne Wells, Burlington, watch out. I mean, somebody's going to get the potential for a big tornado in this region. This is a high-end signal for something rotating, some kind of big rotating supercell, which is the definition of a supercell rotating thunderstorm. This is a pretty high-end signal that really emerges later this evening and lasts throughout the overnight hours. I think maybe 1 to 2, as much as 3 dominant supercells form. And then this eventually trails off into the Oklahoma area where the signal was very high also, all the way into tomorrow morning. I'm telling you, even Dodge City, watch out in the wee hours of the morning. This is a pretty high-end signal for tornadoes or just 1 or 2 big tornadoes in this region that are possible. Definitely rotating thunderstorms from eastern, southeastern Colorado, extreme southwest areas of Kansas, even the Panhandle of Oklahoma, all the way into kind of northern and northwest sections of Oklahoma. Solid signal for rotating thunderstorms, okay? And then you look at the potential for winds. This is what's happening this morning. We'll take it all the way out until these storms begin to emerge out of areas of Colorado. And then it's not that huge of a signal, but you see these little embedded areas of winds right here. This is winds pushing 60, 70, 80 miles per hour in some of these storms. Watch out Dodge City, any kind of small town community in southwest Kansas. And then these begin to get close just north of the Woodward, Oklahoma region. It's an 83 mile per hour wind gust. I mean, a lot of times the HRRR model overdoes this, but this is waking up tomorrow morning. I think you're going to have an intense line of storms somewhere in northern Oklahoma, southern Kansas as we're waking up tomorrow morning. The ingredients is going into this. I mean, the Cape builds into this region, right? Here it goes. It increases. I mean, this is just mid-afternoon at this point. Cape levels all the way past 2,500 joules per kilogram. This is really high. And then the storms develop, eat up all this energy. This is some high-end Cape levels for the high plains. These are higher elevations. Remember, dew points in the 60s, dew points-wise, is pretty high for these elevations, okay? This is a plateau out here. So, I mean, you're a few to several thousand feet up in the air, even in eastern areas of Colorado. So the higher up you get, the less amount of moisture that the atmosphere can really hold. So dew points in the 60s in this region supports some high-end ingredients thermodynamic-wise for some big time storms. But you look at the winds aloft, and it really shows the flow quite well, screeching across this region, right across the upper portion of this ridge. And you got this strong flow well aloft flying through this region. This is going to support that tornado threat, the kinematics for a tornado threat and damaging winds flying through this region. Especially up here, you got a 30, 40 at times, 50 knot mid-level jet screeching through this region. This is definitely going to support winds in general, whether it's from a tornado or just damaging winds. I'm going to have to speed up this video, running out of time here. But my folks up here in the north central U.S., the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, pretty quiet for Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan, Iowa. You're going to be dealing with some showers where you have more stable conditions in Nebraska later this afternoon. Southern central Nebraska could deal with some showers. And then once you make your way a little bit further westward into the High Plains region, big time storms are possible. Okay, and we'll go on and make our way into that region. But you could be waking up tomorrow morning in central Nebraska, areas of southeast South Dakota, all the way to Omaha, western Iowa, to some storm activity from the convection that does potentially explode later today in the High Plains. But you look at the High Plains today, and we can't ignore these storms. Anywhere from southwest Montana. I mean, this time frame is around 6 to 7 p.m. Some storms in southern Montana. Some big storms in and around the Cheyenne area. Please don't ignore the tornado threat in southeast Wyoming and northeast Colorado, because I do think there is the potential for some tornadoes up here also. So, but, I would say if you're in eastern Wyoming, southeast Montana, extreme southwest areas of South Dakota, western areas of Nebraska, you guys have a chance for some nasty storms too. I mean, this looks like a nasty line of storms making its way through eastern Wyoming and northeast Wyoming. So certainly be aware of this, and this could eventually make its way into after the midnight time frame into those western sections of South Dakota and Nebraska, and then things will diminish and work their way eastward. So in this entire region today, watch out for large hail, damaging winds. There could be some very large hail in some of these cells in Wyoming and even Montana, even though the HRRR model didn't look very impressive in Montana. If you're in any areas in southeast Montana, watch out later this afternoon into the late evening hours. Certainly possible. The rest of the West, very quiet. Not much to speak on at all. You guys in western Montana could get some shower activity too. Also in extreme northern Idaho, it's possible. Even in areas of northern Washington State, some downpour activity is possible. Maybe a downpour is possible or two. And northwest Nevada. Outside of that, not much to speak on. Temperatures today, very warm in the northeast, very summer-like, where you got the heat advisories and the humidity. Heat indices may reach the low 90s in some of these higher elevations and valleys up here in the interior northeast area. Very warm all the way up into Canada also. Nova Scotia, pretty warm. Warm down the southeast, but nothing totally unusual for this time of the year. In fact, it's probably a tick below average, honestly. Very warm and uncomfortable in Florida and South Georgia, 90s, high humidity. Texas, Louisiana, same deal. But more stable conditions up here above this boundary, south of this boundary, and along it. You're going to have that tornado threat today. 70s dominating. A very crisp, enjoyable type summer air mass up here in the High Plains and the upper Midwest. Temperatures pretty average out here, but it's well above average in Washington State. Oregon, definitely above average temperatures dominating. Who knows? Somebody might try to hit 100 degrees in the lower elevations of eastern Washington State, but typical desert temperatures right here in the desert Southwest. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.